Hello and welcome to this talk between me, Satu Goldbech at Tietoevry and Mårten Bokedal from Optimizely. And the reason why we're here today is to talk about the fact that Google Optimize will sunset their services the 30th of September. Mårten, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Mårten Bokedal. I'm a Director of Product Strategy at Optimizely. The past 10 years I've been working with companies to help them optimize their digital services. And now I've been focusing on how we are actually optimizing and developing our own products for the market, and especially with focus on the Nordics.
And just a little add on to that, Tietoevry are platinum partners to Optimizely, right?
Correct.
Yeah, we'll come back more to that later. So listen, I think I'm not the only one who's really curious about why Google is sunsetting their services. Because I think 50% of all companies that do their A/B testing actually use Google Optimize. So what's your hypothesis about this?
Yes, it's true. It's actually, I think it's unheard of that a company with a 50% market share just decide from one day to another to withdraw from the market. But I think like Google, like any other company as well, has had their optimization platform as part of their marketing stack for quite some time now. All platforms need to evolve, and I believe that they found that there is a time now in which they were looking at their product and saw that it's not actually coming up to the standards of modern platforms in terms of what they actually have to offer in value for the market to actually develop. So they were looking at this as, should we keep on investing in this platform, or should we look at partnerships? And what they decided to do was to instead actually form partnerships, and they were picking 3 vendors in the market in which they are now collaborating with, building their future of integrations and future of features when it comes to experimentation. And Optimizely is one of those vendors that they decided to go in a joint collaboration with.
All right, interesting. And we do know that Google Optimize actually offers a free platform. And now we're heading towards investments when it comes to experimentation. What is your view from Optimizely that why should you invest in doing your testings and experimentation?
Google Optimize has two versions of their platform. They have a free version and they have a paid version. The paid version has been within connections with their analytics. Most of people that have been using Google Optimize have been using their free platform. So of course, a lot of companies are now looking into like, well, we now need to look into like, are we going to invest and pay for the platform or not? And we are seeing that a lot of companies actually making that decision. And one of the biggest reasons we see that now is the changes that just happened a few years ago, or the last couple of years, in which more and more people are consuming content and interacting in digital channels. It means that a lot of more things are happening faster and faster. So we see that 2023 has been the year of uncertainty a little bit. Things after COVID, things changed. Now we have a recession, things are changing again. A lot of the decisions people are taking now are usually have been based on gut feelings or experience. But when things are changing very fast in the markets, you actually, everything that you learn from the past is not going to really help you in taking, making the right decisions for the future as well. So that's also what we've been seeing, that experimentation has been a way of making sure that you're always in touch with your consumers or the visitors in your digital channels, to make sure that you're involving them in the decisions that you're doing, to make sure that every investment that you're doing, every choice that you're doing is also a little bit based on your customers and their customer behaviors as well. And looking at that, what we saw in recent research as well is the most searched terms that our customers are actually looking for is, how are customer behavior changing? So that is also like just another proof point that people don't really know what the future will look like, and experimentation is a big part of understanding that in a better way.
I mean, it's the only way to predict the future if you could do that. And we always say that one size doesn't fit all, and that's very describing about this.
Yeah.
So we always talk a lot about optimizing your conversions. That's very important, I know, but there's so many other things you can experiment with, like product innovation and other stuff. What's your view on that?
Most people see experimentation or A/B testing. You see A/B testing is having two versions that you're more or less having, variation that you're testing against. You can have more than one variation and three variations. And most people think about this as that you change copy, you maybe change image. One of the most common things is that you have a green button or you have a red button, and you're testing that as well. And of course, you can iterate and get a lot of value from making conversion rate optimization changes towards it. But what we're seeing when it comes to experimentation, it's actually coming to be part of also innovation. So innovation is more into also like not just what kind of campaigns and what content are you putting out on your website, but what else are you actually investing in? It can be as part of what we see is an example as painted door tests. If you're thinking about creating a new feature or launching a new product, before you're actually investing sometimes hundreds of thousands, even millions in developing new features, you can actually test it on the site, put up a button easily to see, are people interacting with this? And even so, if they do that, come up with questions to see, like, we are looking into investing in this feature. Would this be of value for you? So before you actually start to invest and do anything and ship it to see if people actually want to use it, you're doing that as an early stage of a minimal viable product. Another thing is, of course, also to make sure that the things that you're developing in terms of new features on website, but even new products, is that you put them under feature flagging. So that you're not just blindly having, a go live with the push of a button and hoping that everything works, but that you can, fingers crossed, so that you can actually easily also draw back any new implementations that you do. So we see that developments are not made in transformations anymore, but usually you do it in iterative changes, smaller and smaller pieces. So to see also, like, when you launch something, how does this impact the overall behaviors? How does it impact the site? How does it impact the performance? Can we see any types of bugs? So that's one thing when you're using feature flags, but it can also be that you actually want to test new features towards a certain group of people. Could be people in a country. It could be for a smaller test group. So instead of just launching everything towards your whole audience, you can actually test and launch this for a percentage of the audience to see how does this actually impact the overall behavior or performance or the metrics that you're looking at. So it's a way of actually developing new products as well.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you say. I hear that yes, it's an investment, and of course, but it's a lot of money saved when you're not doing the wrong things also.
Yes.
So that would very quickly cover the investment. Yeah.
There's a lot of risks in terms of working with digital and developing new things. One of the risks is, of course, what if things fail? I mean, think about services that you launched during Black Friday, and if checkout doesn't work, what does that actually have an impact for your sales? But what other things, can impact things when you're launching things that creates friction and frustration. So people get annoyed and they start to complain about that as well. But you should also look at your internal teams. Like, what is the cost of having to draw back something and having to spend a lot of time in debugging the things, not actually developing? It's also for the morals in development teams to make sure that whatever you're launching is of good value and with good code. So those are things. The last thing we see mature companies are doing is what we call blue sky research. Is that you actually, when the most of the testing that you do, you have a clear purpose. You want to see if this increases a performance or a metric. So you have clear KPIs. But you can also use experimentation to see what will actually happen, and you might not even know that. So it can be so that you are working with sponsorships. Sponsorships is a type of marketing that is quite hard to measure. you don't always know the effect of, sponsoring the World Cup of football is actually providing for value. So mature companies in experimentation, what they do is they can put people in buckets. So they can put some people, half of the people on your website to actually be engaging in sponsorship messaging. The rest of them might not be. And they can track people to see what would be the changes in behavior. Could we see an effect of the people that actually see us sponsoring things, or even doing other things that is around charity and stuff like that? So could I have positive impacts on loyalty or any other brand affection over time? So that is kind of also being more a little bit about actually having research around that with experimentation.
That's really not working with the blindfold on. Yeah, so okay, we have a shift coming up, and lots of our customers already started working on this, and we know why you should do A/B testing or experimentation, as we call it. But more over to the hard facts, Morten. What is your offer from Optimizely? What happens after September this year?
Yes. So Google Optimize is a good platform. It works well on web, and you can do experiments around copy and smaller iterations. There's a few things though what we see is needed to expand your experimentation program. First of all is that we believe that the more tests you do, the more value you get back. And to do more tests, you also need to be able to experiment on all your channels, not just the web. So at Optimizely, we have two sets of experimentation platforms. One is web experimentation, which is closely related to what Google Optimize is. The other is feature experimentation, which is actually testing on the backend. So it means that it unlocks new things in terms of what you can actually test. You can test even what algorithms is working for us, product recommendations, content recommendations, or other types of recommendation engines. You can test pricing in another way. But you can also test and experiment on your apps or mobile apps or other types of devices in IoT that is not just the web. So it increases the possibilities of doing more tests, and you can also do omni-channel tests and do it on larger changes. So looking at big changes in code, even like changes in your checkout processes, things like that that you couldn't have done before. So I think like it's important to look at the bigger changes that you do, the bigger value you can actually create in terms of course, optimization, but also, of course, also de-risking whatever you're launching as well. So that's one of the most important things. The other things is that we hear a lot about performance issues. So on website optimization and experimentation, you put scripts on your site. So you get this flickering effect, which means that for a certain amount of seconds, you can actually see something is happening, and it's also slowing down site speed. So everyone who's working with optimization on websites and in commerce also knows that if you're decreasing your web performance, you're also decreasing your conversion rates. So Optimizely is actually, even for website optimization or experimentation, is hosting it on the CDN. So you don't have that flickering effect. So you can do website experimentation without any page performance issues. So that's the second thing. The third thing is to actually get faster statistical significant results using AI. So to know that a test is actually working, you need to have a certain amount of traffic. That's kind of the thing because the more traffic, you have to have a certain amount of traffic to get a statistical significance to know whatever this result is, I can actually trust by 99% confidence that this is actually delivering the value that it says. So it means that if you have 4 variations, you have to send the traffic to 4 different variations at the same time. And if you don't have a lot of traffic, it can take a lot of time to actually get to that statistical significance. Smarter use of AI, in which we are using as well, can detect winners faster. So instead of sending the traffic equally distributed to all 4 variations, you can start to see the winner and start to actually drive more traffic to that variation to find one winner at a time faster, so you can move on to the next result. Same thing is actually with personalization in an experimentation. So we're looking at things like multi-arm bandits, in which you can actually drive traffic towards different types of variations based on personalized way, and also actually do experiments towards a specific audience. So not just every person that comes to visit a site, but maybe people that comes in from Finland, or people that have been buying before, or people that has been returning in the last 3 hours, etc., etc. So personalization and optimization is more or less coming in together as one piece of everything that you do when it comes to your digital presence. We're also looking at the last thing, which I think is important, and it's integration with the other tools. So optimization shouldn't be a process that is disconnected from the rest of your stack as well. So of course we have integrations with Google Analytics and GA4, which is Google's new analytics platform, but also other platforms that can help you ideate. You have to create a hypothesis and ideate to do an experiment. And we have partners like Content Square, we have partners like Site Improve, in which you're actually creating these hypotheses to see like what can we see in the user research, what kind of behavior can we track, and where do we want to experiment. So where do we get those new ideas, and how can we actually integrate this in the process of ideation to do this as well. So just the sheer amount of integrations to your digital ecosystems and how we integrate with other players is of course also an important piece of that puzzle.
Integration is a real keyword these days.
Yes.
That's a lot of things that you can offer, but I do know that there's things happening also in Optimizely. What's coming up next? What's your next steps?
For mature companies, what we see as well, when you have been implementing what we call a culture experimentation, it means that there's two key things that you want to do. You want to run more experiments, but you also want to make sure that you're running more experiments with high quality. So not just experimenting because you want to experiment. So not just small tweaks disconnected from your key objectives and things that is important for your business. So what we're now looking into is how do you actually integrate this as a bigger part of everything that you actually do. So be able to do more tests means that you have to implement this as a part of the workflow as you're working. So we're now implementing this into our content marketing platform, which means that you have one integrated way of creating ideas, how you can also then take those ideas and prioritize them. What ideas should we put into the backlog, and what should we actually start doing now? How do you then work with those workflows? Because you have to have sometimes developers, you have to have testing engineers, you have to run the tests. So how can you have an automated workflow in one place in which everything is actually happening with full transparency to be able to run more experiments per year? The other thing is, of course, to be able to do more experiments and do that in terms of doing it in more target audience. So we're connecting it with our Optimizely data platform, which is our CDP, which means that you can also now start to look into segments of your customers and to do more smaller experiments towards specific customer groups, which is super important because loyal customers has other behaviors and other needs than, for example, new customers, if you're thinking about this as a commerce or in travel or even in banks. So being able to actually experiment and provide different new features and different new content experiments for different target audiences is also important. So not just looking at it as the experimentation platform, but implementing this as a part of everything that you do in your business. That is kind of what we're looking at into doing now.
Yeah, and you are just like we always explain ourselves as one-stop shop when it comes to the world you live in and the ecosystem you're building up. Our customers often ask us, what's in it for me? Why should I go there or there? And this is very obvious. You should go and be a part of the Optimizely world just because you get everything in one place. Just like you do when you become our customers at Tietoevry. We are a one-stop shop when it comes to the digital performance. And being that one-stop shop presumes that we have partners like you at Optimizely. And how do you work? You told me about your partnerships and integrations, but do you also work towards the market directly, or what is your strategy?
Uh, when Optimized started as a company before they actually got acquired, they were doing most of their business directly towards the customers. But as we also talked a little bit before, one of the most important things with experimentation is to build a culture of experimentation, which means that you have to put this as part of your innovation strategy. So innovation needs to happen everywhere, and to make that happen, you have to, more or less spread yourself throughout the whole company. So our approach now is more of a partner first strategy when it comes to experimentation, because our customers, like when they are developing new CMS, new commerce, new apps and everything, they work with partners like Tietoevry, and they want to be able to work with partners for as much things as possible to make sure that this is also a part of everything that they do. So our strategy is now to have a partner first strategy so that our customers can actually make sure that this is becoming implemented in as a part of every work that they do with our partners today as well. So when they know that they are shipping new codes, that their partner is making sure that they are having a scientific way of doing this and not just blindly pushing the button and hoping for the best.
That's the value of partnerships. And that's about it today, isn't it? If you're more curious to hear more about Optimizely experimentation and how we at Tietoevry could help you going forward after September also, please take contact, and we will also reach out to you after this webinar. And please ask your questions in the Q&A, and we will answer them straight after this video. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.